Hello, everyone. I am Jack Mason Goodall. I am a psychologist and a play therapist, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm the founder and director of Autism Optimism International. And this is my wonderful friend and dear person to my heart. Laurie, do you want to introduce yourself there?
Hi, everybody. I'm Laurie Frederick. I am a parent to a wonderful kiddo on the spectrum, and I'm also the executive director of the Griffin Promise Autism Clinic in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Amazing. Thank you, Laurie. And I just managed to get the settings, so we're both showing at the same time now on the screen. So yeah, if anybody is watching, then say hi, give us a little like or a little comment to let us know that you're here. And if you are watching this later, then if you just leave a comment saying replay, so we know that you're watching this back on a replay. Laurie, there's some really lovely stuff that I'm excited to talk to you about this evening. And I'm aware we're going to be talking a lot about the Autism Ninjas group program that you were part of last year, and you're going to be part of again this year, which I'm really excited about. And I just want to do like a very quick 2-minute pitch on what the Autism Ninjas group is, because it's something different to what we typically do, the way we typically work with parents. I want to let people know that this is another thing that we do. We're enrolling now. It's a year-long group program, and it's for parents who have just wonderful experience, like kind of years of experience with their kids, whether that is running a full-time home program, whether that's part-time, whether their kids are in school. We're calling this the Autism Ninjas group because it's for people who've had years to develop like their ninja skills with their kids. And it's a program specifically designed to help us go even deeper, not just with the kind of practical tools and tips that help us kind of, support our children, but really with the self-development kind of emotional, relational pieces. So thinking about what gets in the way for being able to have an easy, loving, accepting, optimistic experience with our children. Because in all of the years that I've been doing this work, that's the piece I see that really, really makes a difference, right? When we're able to feel easy, when we're able to feel kind of nourished and calm and loving inside, that's when things tend to work best with our children. So this program is really designed about supporting parents to get in that place and to stay in that place for as long as possible. So if you are interested at all in this program, then we are enrolling now. We're going to be starting in February. I'm going to try and pop a little link in the comments for people to go and sign up if they are interested. Let me just get that link. Here it is. Multitasking. All right, so you can just follow that link, pop your application in. We've only got kind of 3 or 4 more spaces available, so it's going to be first come, first serve. Go have a little look at that. That's all the pitch stuff done. Laurie, I would love you to introduce yourself more fully to whoever's watching this.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, I am first and foremost Griffin's mom. Super excited. My son is 18 years old. He is getting ready to graduate from high school. He is doing wonderful. And Griffin is just, he's just a big teddy bear. That's kind of the best way to describe him. Always so sweet. He used to get called our little old man by all of his like therapy team and play therapy team, and all the little doctors and stuff, because he was just like pliable. You could take him anywhere and like just move him wherever you went to, he would do it. It was pretty easygoing, and so I feel like I've been very, very blessed. I've always said that this is kind of a journey. Life is a journey. It's such a big thing for me because I love to travel, and so Griffin's journey led to me kind of taking my background in like the psychology of teams and learning and training and development and working that into the training I was also getting to help him at home. And our little charity was born here in the Midwest in the United States. And that charity went on to kind of help a lot of families find the tools that we have with Griffin. And eventually they decided to open up a clinic. And so I left the other paying job and took that leap of faith, and came here with my founders, partners in crime, that I have here at the Griffin Promise. And we opened the clinic in 2014, and it is 2022, and we are hopefully in our third build out that we're going to be doing over the next year, to open up a much bigger kind of center in this part of the country, just kind of helping families through therapy, through coaching, through training, having a much bigger education center, which we love, because we love working with like education professionals, and then professionals in general in any kind of business, like helping them kind of navigate whatever autism plays in their journey as well. So love what I get to do. I definitely get so much out of it, that's for sure.
Oh, that is incredible. I was just sitting here thinking, what an amazing, in England, we call it a CV. I think you call it a resume in America.
Yes.
Like, what an amazing resume you have. But I just wanted to say a little hi to Suzanne, who's commented there.
Oh,
hey, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
Lovely to see you here. Oh, and I'm so glad you found the ninjas a great experience. Thank you. Laurie, getting back to what you were just saying there, I think that level of just kind of like a rootedness into the autism world.
Yeah.
It was something that I so deeply appreciated that you brought to the Autism Ninjas group last year, both this incredible experience at the way that you supported Griffin, but then also the generosity of taking that experience, wanting to offer it to people, and then like offering it to them in this phenomenal way, like through a charity, but now through the clinic. You have these conferences that you run, you know, thank you for bring me along to speak at them, which is amazing.
Thank you for coming.
Well, yeah. And I think that's one of the things when I'm thinking about why I love teaching the Autism Ninjas group is it's not just a place where I get to kind of sit there as a professional and say, well, you know, in my experience, this is what we should be doing. But it's really giving credit to the years of experience that you have and the other parents in the group have, and that actually, like, together we can become this encyclopedia of knowledge of how to best support our kids. And that's really why I wanted to invite you here today for this conversation, to kind of share some of your encyclopedia, because there's a lot of profound stuff in there. And so there's a few questions that I wanted to go over, and the first one really is about a theme that I feel we keep circling back to in all of the work that I do with families, which is this idea of shame and guilt. And that felt like a very central conversation that we had multiple times last year as a group about, where as parents do we feel guilty? Why do we feel guilty? And also just about how isolating and inhibiting guilt and shame can feel. So I was really curious, you know, if we think first of all about your position as a professional, right? You direct this clinic, you work with so many families. What is some of the shame or the guilt that you see the parents who you work with holding?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, I think it's a common thread, like you're saying, like it's the majority of families that we work with and caregivers, they all have this piece, even if they are the most positive outlook, you know, excited for the future, caregivers, that they also are kind of holding on to this like guilt and shame. I think it's more of an overall thing. It's not like pinpointed to one thing, like I feel guilty for this one time frame in my life. It's just like overall, it's just kind of embedded in there. And I think for most parents, it's parenting in general. It's not just a special needs child, and then our stuff just kind of gets heightened. So, you know, you can be talking to any parent and they'll be like, oh, work-life balance, like I'm not giving enough time, or I'm not doing enough research to so-called help them, you know, through things, or I'm not enough. You know, like I'm not enough, like whether it's I'm not giving enough, I'm not creative enough, I'm not diverse enough, I'm not letting them have enough experiences, or I'm not keeping them safe enough. There's always something where we're thinking like I am not enough, and I'm not giving something extra that we think is going to make this huge change for our child.
Right.
And what's great in the ninjas group is I remember having this conversation, and in one of my notes, and it was one of the other parents, not you, Jack. I know you come with like lots and lots of knowledge. But
I'm very happy. No, I love it when it comes from you
I learned
guys.
so much from the other moms and dads in the group. And one of them said something about kind of cheerleading yourself, that we're always cheerleading our child. Like we need to cheerlead ourselves a little bit more. And realize that we're only human, and how many of the things that we are like feeling bad about are truly, truly within our control.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember writing that down, like, if it's not within my control, why am I giving it so much attention? Or just basic little conversations like that. And then of course it's always uplifting when like all the parents are sitting there going, yeah, I get you. I felt that too, or whatever, but you know, it just makes you not feel so alone, which is wonderful.
That's really key, isn't it? That not feeling alone. And actually I remember, yes, this was one of the mums in the group. And I think this was in even one of our very first sessions together. We were talking about this idea, was like how shame isolates us and sharing connects us. And even when we're sharing the things that we're ashamed of, somehow that helps us feel less alone. And when we feel less alone, we then feel less shame. Like it's just this lovely reinforcement loop that happens. And as you were talking there, Laurie, too, I really loved, and I feel you're so on point with that idea that the guilt is kind of like, it's all pervasive. It's not just, oh, there's only this one thing that I feel guilty about as a parent and everything else is great. It's like this, you become a parent and I just put on my guilt coat.
Right.
And then I'm wearing it in every room that I go into. And there's a story that I love to tell sometimes with the families that I work with. It's just like this silly little fable, but I think it really relates here. And it's this idea, there's this man and he's wearing a coat. Maybe it's his guilt coat. And then the sun and the wind are having an argument, and they are arguing about who can get the man to take his coat off. And the wind is like, well, I'm really strong, I'm really powerful, so I'm just going to blow and I'm going to bluster and I'm going to blow the coat off him. And so the wind does that. And I think that's a lot like what we often do with ourselves when we feel ashamed or we feel guilty. We try to like force ourselves out of it. Or we do it with our kids when they're not doing something and we try to force them into doing it. So the wind's there and it's blowing, but what the man ends up doing is just like wrapping his coat around him even tighter. And then the sun comes along and she says, well, I'm just going to do what I know how to do. And that's just to sparkle and shine. And I'm just going to love this person. And so the sun does that. And the man takes off his coat. And that was such a beautiful thing to witness between all of you in the Ninjas group last year, was just how much love you offered each other and how, I think, healing that was for all of us to be part of that experience. And
this no judgment zone, like that's, I mean, we didn't even have to have like that rule or something like that, you know, talking about the beginning. It was very much just like common respect for one another and nobody making you feel bad for even saying the things you feel bad about. Because that's huge as parents. Like I remember sitting there and it was all the moms there one day was on, and we were all talking, and like someone was like emotional, right? And then other people were emotional, reminding them of themselves. And there was never a moment of like, oh, it's okay, wipe your tears, get better. Like we were all like sitting in it together going like, yeah, that sucks, you know, and having that moment and just being very real. And I think that just bonded us so much, because we're like, yeah, that was kind of crappy. And then you kind of have that moment of like, well, I feel better because I don't feel alone. And we all have those crappy moments. And so it was nice to just always like be able to have conversations without the stress or fear of what someone else was going to be thinking when you said it.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a bit more, because I think that's really key. And I know you and I, we share a lot of thoughts about the importance of community. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next conference that you're going to be running, Laurie, for those of you who don't know, Laurie runs these incredible autism conferences down in Oklahoma. They're phenomenal. And I think the theme of the next one is community, right?
It's creating communities. Yeah. And it's this idea behind, so often we either say like, oh, this is what you need to be doing for early intervention, or this is what you need to do during the school age. This is what you need to do whenever you're going to graduate and have to do transition services. This is what's lacking in all those areas. And so we're like, but really, it's at all ages. We're always like looking for a community. We're always looking for like, where are our resources? Where are our people? Where do we fit in? And not just for our neurodiverse people, but for our parents of neurodiverse individuals, that it's great because both parties want to know how they can connect. And that's one of our goals here as a charity, is to mesh together this like kind of weird wall that we have between the understanding of neurodiverse individuals and their desire to be involved in our community, and then our community understanding like, how do we let them in and also learn from them? Yeah. And it's like this weird bubble like that we're all pushing against, like the desire is there, but nobody realizes that the other side wants it. So one of the things that we want to do is just kind of tear down that kind of invisible mesh and just let these people interact and learn from one another without it having to be like, you have to do step 1, 2, or 3. It's just creating that connection. So that's kind of what we want to showcase at this year's conference. Is it's like from teeny tiny age of just like what's available to me, other parents, community resources, whatever, all the way up to like, I'm a working adult and I want to know like, where can I live? Where can I meet people to date? Whatever. How do we make that happen? As a community.
That's beautiful. And actually, a lovely member of our community's just said hi. There's Tori there in the comments. Hey, Tori, it's really great to see you. Okay. So that idea of us learning from each other, right? Rather than kind of this top-down system of I'm the professional, or I'm the parent, or I'm the neurotypical person. So I'm the one who's here to do the teaching, and you as the whoever, like neurodiverse person, you're here just to do the learning. I think that's so outdated now. And tell me a little bit then about what have you learned from Griffin?
Oh, wow. The list is long. From an early age, I would think that, like all parents, we learn our levels of patience, both good and bad, like where our tolerances are in the patient category, all through those younger years. Griffin has definitely taught me like to slow down, because I would miss things. I mean, like, I will be honest, like I will hold this to my guilt factor, but they're in those early stages of development, especially in his 2, 3, 4-year-old range, where we were like looking for what our path was going to be. I spent so much time investigating and trying to figure out what you call it and going to appointments and that kind of thing, that when I look back at those toddler years, I have more time in my research and figuring out what I needed to do than I had in memories of enjoying my 2-year-old, enjoying my 3-year-old. And so it was a huge like eye opener for me whenever like I just kind of hit my wall, and it was a really low point, but my eyes were open to like, I'm just tired. Well, if I'm tired of doing all this to try and make everything better for him, he's got to be tired of me doing it too. And so that was the first time of like really saying like, okay, let's just watch Griffin and listen and learn from him. And it was like look at what makes him happy. What does he enjoy? Not so much what a book was telling me to do or what a professional was telling me to do, but him. And then by watching him, my gosh, you learn so much. I've learned that there's so much to communicate that's not said in verbal language. I'm still learning that. My mind just keeps getting blown. I have learned to, be quiet. I'm a talker. So it's real easy for me to fill up the space. But I've become more observant, because of that. And then to enjoy things, like truly delight in something, like Griffin loves elephants. Anybody who knows anything about Griffin knows that he loves elephants. And to just see the joy that like seeing an elephant book or watching an elephant video or talking about a zoo or a new elephant being born, to see that joy and to take the moment and be like, that is impressive, that is amazing, and that you are so motivated by it.
Yeah.
To see that in him has also taught me to like take a moment and enjoy the things that I like so much, like give some extra time to myself.
Okay.
You enjoy traveling so much, but you also need rest. So like picking things that allow me a day of rest when I'm traveling or
Yeah.
whatever, just so our kids on the spectrum in general, if you step back and watch, are really good at taking care of themselves to some points where people would label it as being selfish even, but really they have bigger needs sometimes. And so they have to be like, I need to make myself okay before I can be good to be with you.
Yeah.
And how much we need to do that. So
Right.
even for myself, like I have to make myself okay in order to be the best mom or the best director on that day or the best friend to somebody or family member. So that is a huge one that he has taught me, just gotta take care of yourself, mom, or you're no good to anybody.
That is huge. That's huge. I really want to, again, just like hone in on that, because I feel like I've seen you go on a real journey of discovery of how to give yourself permission to do that. And I've been so just delighted to see that for you. And I decided to title this conversation Less Guilt, More Grace. And I think what you're talking about here, Laurie, goes to the heart of that, which is there are certain things that as parents and as caregivers, it's so easy for that to trigger our guilt impulse, whether that is, you talked about slowing down, or whether it is, letting ourselves appreciate the little things over the big things, or whether it is, like you said, we can call it selfish, that I'm actually going to take some time off and do something for me, right? And when we can just really, really tune into how deeply helpful that is for our children,
right?
And to reframe it not as this is something bad that I'm doing that I need to feel guilty, but this is actually something proactively supportive that I'm doing. Let me ask you, what impact do you see that has for Griffin in his development when you are really able to take that time to take care of yourself? And actually, I would call it regulate yourself, to let yourself be regulated.
So it's huge, because not only back early on, even just when we were figuring out his diagnosis, of feeling guilty for taking any time, even if it was just like one weekend on a girls' trip or something, or taking the day off and he goes to school and you just veg all day, whatever it was, I would have so much guilt from that, because it would always be like well, what should you have been doing for Griffin? Like, that kind of thing. I learned through experience, literally like trial and error of like, by the times that I didn't do this for myself, how much longer it took for me to accomplish anything, because I wasn't well rested and I wasn't in my best place. And the effect that it had on Griffin, because people have always told me in my family, like, if I'm having a really rough day, I'll be completely honest, I suffer from a lot of anxiety. I'm also, I would say, right up there in the top notches of the world's fixer syndrome. Like, I so desperately want to like just make everybody happy all the time. And so that really like plagued me as a young adult. And as a, when I was younger as a mom, or in the early days. But now what I have realized is that every time I did take time for myself, the things that I would notice in Griffin, whereas like if I was having a very anxious moment, that affected him to the point, like I was saying, my family would literally be like, if you're having a rough day, just go away, we got Griffin, because they didn't want him to feed off of how I was feeling. Now, because he has experienced it so much, where he's like seen me go on a trip, or he's seen me like, me say, you know what, I really enjoy taking a bath, or I really enjoy reading a book in my hammock sometimes. And so sometimes he's been like, like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, if I'm getting all my stuff together to go take a bath, and I'll be like, well, I'm going to go take a bath. And he goes, oh, okay, you're going to relax. And I'll be like, yes, I'm going to relax. when Griffin is having a rough day now, sometimes, and he's like in that mode of just like, I don't like anything, and I'm feeling frustrated and I can't
I
get
know
it
that
out, whatever
feeling.
it is, right? We all do. He will sometimes say, will a nice bath help?
Oh, that's
And so
incredible.
he'll just go run a bubble bath for himself. And I mean, the only way he would really know that is by trying it. And he tried it because it was okay for mom. And he
Yeah.
saw mom does this and she says it helps her. So I want to try it too.
Wow.
So I think that that's just like one of many examples of like me taking care of myself has also taught him ways to take care of himself and how important it is. Like, you know, I'm very honest with him with all my emotions and explaining what they are. But being able to say like, yeah, when I'm feeling that way, sometimes I just want to break, or sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody. Sometimes I want to read my book because my brain hurts about thinking about all the real life stuff,
Absolutely.
you know, and
yeah.
I see him do those things too. Even if he doesn't talk to me about it in the same conversational way, he's picked up on those things from watching what mom does, for sure.
So that's incredible. There are two things there that I think are just so powerful, right? There's one, which is just about your own capacity, and that when you're rested, you've actually got more energy. You know, often we talk with the families that I work with about like, we want to have optimism, we want to have motivation. Like that's the fuel in the engine. But when we are exhausted, both those things run out. So we can replenish those if we are actually, guiltless about taking some time to look after ourselves. But also this other amazing piece about how Griffin has learned through observing you some more tools to be able to regulate himself. I mean, that's just magical. And I'm really mindful of time. We wanted to keep this to kind of around half an hour. And there's one last question that I wanted to go through. So this year, specifically the Autism Ninjas group that we're going to be running is for parents with autistic teenagers and young adults. And there's a very, very specific reason why I wanted to do that, because I think that when we are what I would say like deep into the autism journey, right? Meaning like we've splashed around in the shallows of the autism pool when we first got our diagnosis, we tried out different therapies, gradually we got deeper and deeper into the experience, and like, you know, you're in pretty deep by this point. And I'm really aware that when we're there, when we're deep, we need different tools to the tools we needed at the start. So could you just speak to that for a moment? What is different now that you're deep in the autism journey? And this is a really tricky question, but if you could think of what's one thing you wish that you knew at the start that you know now?
Just one thing.
Just one thing. The deal breaker.
A whole thing. So yeah, the tools definitely change. It's an interesting way, the way you put it, because I'm sitting there thinking like, yeah, this is so true. This does happen. I mean, for sure, for myself and for a lot of the families that I work with as well. Like, so I think now when you are really into it, now it's more like making it sustainable in your life. You know, in the early stages, it's all about like the education, learning. And so you're just desperate for knowledge and wanting to learn. Then you get to the point where you're almost tired of hearing about it all the time, you know, and it's embedded more into this is just our life. And now you're wanting the tools to navigate that more. So it changes from like needing those educational tools so much as you need that community. You need the people who are going to keep you going through both the really rocky waters, as you want to say, and those people to celebrate with when it's like really smooth.
Yes.
So I think that the difference becomes of those people who are going to be there like longevity for you, and learning from people who have done that before to know how you can sustain it, and how you can enjoy it too. You know, so like, so often people are looking for resources that's all about the how do I fix this or how do I make this better? But sometimes your resources are more like things like, who are my people that is very comfortable for Griffin to go out and eat with?
Yeah.
Right? Who wants to celebrate birthday parties with us? Who wants to travel with us? Who wants to go to a movie and hang out? that makes me feel good, that's not overstimulating for Griffin. You know, like who's become this like extended friends and family network and community around us, and what are the different experiences that we can have to make that part of our life now sustainable good, not just about the what comes next, but living in it.
That is so profound. That idea that actually the deeper we get into the autism journey, the more important it becomes to be able to tend to our joy. That is so powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And look, we're going to have to kind of wrap up here, but Laurie, thank you so much for giving your time and your wisdom to be here and to talk about this. Thank you to everybody who's been watching. Thank you to the people who've commented. Tori, I've loved hearing your little things. Aurora, hi, it's lovely to see you too. People who are watching this back, again, just type replay on the comments so we know that you're here. And if anybody is interested in exactly what Laurie was talking about here, this, how can I create more joy? How can I create more joy with my child? How can I create more joy with my family, with my life? Let us know. There's a link in the comments to sign up for the next Autism Ninjas group, or shoot me an email, shoot me a message. I'd just be delighted to talk to all of you. Laurie, thank you from me. Thank you from everybody who's been watching. Everyone, I wish you all a Merry Christmas from here in very, very cold England. And yeah, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.